Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Well, last week, the Australian stock market failed to continue its rise from the week prior. So, what does that mean for the sectors in the All Ordinaries Index? Well, tonight, we'll give you our thoughts on those sectors. Our main topic for tonight's show, we will discuss about whether we will see a Santa rally. And as usual, we'll get into what we think are the best stocks. Will lithium stocks make a turnaround? More on that later. First up tonight, we'll share our hot stock tip for the week. So sit back and relax. Tonight will be jam-packed as we answer emails, take your phone calls and give you the answers to some of the important questions around the stock market. Hello and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Now, some of the stocks we will cover tonight include Silver Lake, Kogan and the best lithium stocks including Liontown, Rio Tinto, Core Lithium, Pilbara Minerals and more. I'm Gillham, your host for tonight, and joining me is Janine Cox, and we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators.
Good evening. Tonight we'll share our thoughts on Santa rallies with the focus squarely on one of the rare earths which Australia holds a significant stake in, and that is lithium. We're going to help you prepare for the turnaround opportunity in the best lithium stocks. Stay tuned as we'll get into that and more very soon. But first, we need to get into this week's hot stock tip, which is very, very exciting.
Very, very exciting.
Can I emphasise that enough?
Yeah, that's because you're on the show with me, right?
That's right.
Okay, so let's look at this week's hot stock tip is Australian ethical investment. I didn't think I'd actually be talking about this one, but on the screen we do have the market index website just to show everybody what's going on here. Obviously looking at volume, not huge in volume, not a big dividend yield, but look at the P ratio, Jane.
Wow, that's nuts.
82.24.
So is it going to either rocket off or crash and burn, one of the two, isn't it?
Well, you picked both
Based
sides.
on those numbers.
Nice to be decisive.
But that's what those numbers mean.
I need a one-handed economist, not a two-handed one, okay? But let's keep moving down. We'll go down to the bottom here. What they are, Australian Ethical Investments, is a fund management company that specialises in environmental and socially responsible investments. So it's one of those ones that are a bit more looking specifically, and this is sort of the stocks we like for people. If you don't understand about what is ethical, you can go into one of these funds and get exposure to those ones, because these guys are doing the research on all those areas. But let's go and have a look at the chart on this, because it is looking quite interesting. If we look at the monthly chart and we zoom in up, you can see how this has been there since 2002. So they're pretty much a leader in ethical investments back then. And you can see this massive move right up into that high into November 2021. So even during COVID,
it's just nice and orderly to see that sort of shape that unfolded, even though it is quite volatile. But it shows that some of these even ethical investments can be really hard for investors to time, because you can imagine someone getting into that, thinking that they're doing the right thing, investing in something ethical, but then the stock actually plummets like it did.
It dived. If you look, if we put your
equities, I should say.
But if we put that on, you can see from that big high down to that bottom, you can see it's fallen 83.22%, if I can see.
I guess it illustrates that anything can have that sort of dive. You know, people hold on to stocks like banks and things like CSL, not thinking those stocks can fall. But even something that's like this can have a significant fall.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's looking really, really strong. So all these levels on the chart here are always strong. This is the strongest levels for these stocks. So the strongest support levels, and obviously on the way up, the strongest resistance levels for this stock. So you can see here, it fell short of this one, that $1.50, but it did sort of find some support on these sort of previous peaks, etc. So, but looking really, really nice. It moved up to a nice high there in September. Came back for 1 month, if we can see there, in October. But look at this. November, the rest of the market's been a bit all over the place the last couple of weeks, but it's looking nice. And I think on a monthly chart you could buy this quite simply and easily by breaking when it breaks through that peak. And look at getting a nice return out of this. But let's go and have a look at the weekly chart now. This just looks just as exciting.
It's just had a reversal a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, look at it.
It's nice support, isn't it?
Look at volumes, quite nice now. That was a bit low through these sorts of periods in 2022. Beautiful, nice little trend moving up through here. A nice pullback right down to that low onto the 3rd of November at 367. But the last couple of weeks looking really, really nice. And again,
now I guess from an investor's point of view, one has to realise that you can't just treat it as a buy and hold, which is what this chart is telling you, that you've got to trade it.
Yeah, but obviously if you're trading on a trend line like we talk about in my book, you probably would have bought somewhere in around here, probably a tiny little bit too early, but looking nice, and you could probably use a trend line as a trailing stop loss anyway. But again,
so if it falls through that bar of about 3 weeks ago,
that one, yeah.
If it fell through that, then what would you be thinking?
Whatever you tell me to.
What I find interesting though is the fact that the volume has been so consistent over the last couple of months, which is not sort of classic of what it's done. If you look back over the history, it's not typical.
No, it's not. But again, as I said, if it gets through that green bar there, or that green horizontal line there, I think it's looking really, really good. So it's a nice little time to have a look at that.
Fantastic.
Anyway. But that's my hot stock tip for this week.
Well, that's it for our weekly hot stock tip. Shortly we'll get into the main topic for the night. But before we do, right now it is your opportunity to get involved in the show and have your questions answered. Remember, we prioritise phone callers. So call now on 039290 9988. That's 039290 9988. Or you can text your question into the number on your screen.
Now, the first caller into tonight's show right now gets a free copy of my book, Accelerate Your Wealth. So make sure you pick up your phone and dial 9290 9988 right now. Now, while you do that, tonight is the second Tuesday in the month, which means we take a look at the Australian stock market sectors. So let's get into the charts.
On your screen right now is the watch list of the Australian market sectors.
Wow. And what are you going to say about these?
I knew he would ask me that question. So, look, let's just have a look
yearly,
at the leaderboard. Yeah, obviously we've got the information technology leading at the top. It's come off a little bit.
Has come off
further.
a lot.
Yeah, consumer discretionary is actually down 11.8%, up 11.8%, sorry, but it's come back as well. Consumer services up 5.63%, industrials 4%. Materials are absolutely flat. Okay, so it's pretty good position.
Well, it's in line with the market. The market's flat or slightly down.
Yeah, pretty good position because it's either got to go up or down. So which is it, Dale?
Yep.
Now I'm putting you on the spot.
Either one.
Don't like it, do you?
I'm the one that tells people what to do, and you're the ones that have both sides of the equation.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Keep believing. Utilities, minus 0.5%. Real estate, minus 1%. Financials, minus almost 2%, and energy, minus 3%. Consumer staples, minus 5.5%. I'm actually thinking healthcare, that's the big ticket, isn't it? It's one of the important ones. Obviously, something that's done really well can actually have a number of years in a row where it does well. So information technology, that's a good one to have on the list. Healthcare.
Well, later on, we're going to be deep diving into that for our Talking Wealth members, aren't we?
Well, look, we're going to be looking at lithium stocks, but we can look at information technology. But healthcare down minus 9%, which is interesting. So I think keep an eye on financials, energy, consumer staples, and healthcare going forward, and look at the top two.
Okay, so what charts are we going to look at? You're going to show us some charts, though,
Do you think they'll remember them?
Yeah, they will, because they're very intelligent.
Or they can just check in next month.
Are we looking at a chart, please?
We are.
Okay, let's bring it up. I did say please.
Yep, healthcare. Do I need to drum roll for healthcare tonight? Look at that.
Probably.
Is that a reversal happening? We saw last month, just to give everybody an update on what's happening, last month there was this big dive in healthcare. CSL obviously is a big heavyweight in this sector. Now we've seen a reversal of that, and the stock has actually turned around and retraced all of what it lost the previous month. Because obviously in September it had a big dive as well, but we're yet to see it come back up into the range of that bar. But at the moment it's closing right up there at an important level. So, and the important level being this strong support. If I can just put a line across here for everybody to see, well, I'm just wondering if it's going to hit its head on that and slow down a bit, or whether it's going to rip right through that. So that's the question that I guess we can answer together tonight and give our view on that. So far, 2 weeks up off the bottom. Does that mean that we get the violin out and start playing it yet?
No.
No?
No, and I don't like violins anyway, but
Get the drums out.
I was going to say let's start beating the drum, but not get too excited.
You could get your guitar out.
Oh, just stop.
Okay.
Get going.
All right, so look, 2 weeks up, and we've just got to wait to see. But look, it's reasonable to think that it could head up towards that $39.40, given the strength of the reversal we've seen so far. What it does beyond that, and whether this is a recovery, is still, time will tell, I guess, on that one. But I'm really liking it at the moment.
Really
looking at it,
healthcare.
liking healthcare. Information technology. This is one we talked about in our show, a recent show. We've seen it pull back really strongly. I think it was about 18%. So anytime a stock or market pulls back around that sort of level, you can expect that there could be a nice little rebound from that. But we haven't seen the same sort of recovery. If we just look at the monthly chart, even though this month we've actually seen a really nice effort to try to come back up to the range of last month, we still haven't traded over the top of the high of October, which is what needs to happen in order to convince me that this sector is actually going to take off.
But it does look quite nice, doesn't it?
It does. So if we put a trend line underneath all of this, and I'm just looking down there to see if I can get that, we can see that this one looks really nice in terms of the angle of that rise. Healthcare, if we go back to that, and we'll just have a by comparison, we put that horizontal line on there, but we can see that there's actually a nice trend line coming down here for an entry. So that's back onto the weekly chart there. So it's already above the trend line on the weekly chart, which is good. If I go to the weekly chart here and we have a look at the same sort of thing, we can see that we could potentially, start putting a line down here to see whether there's an opportunity there, but it's not as advanced, I guess, as what healthcare is at the moment.
I like it. I like both of those. Yeah.
Very good, isn't it? Well, that is it for our thoughts on the Australian market sectors. We have lots of emails tonight, but before we get into the first one, remember to get your email questions answered live on air. You must send your question to info@wealthwithin.com.au. Now let's get into our first question.
Alrighty, our first email is from Pat, who says, "Hi Dale and Janine, hope you're both well. I really enjoyed the show, so please keep doing it. Just wanted to get your opinion on Silver Lake Resources. It looks interesting to me, not in it, but maybe looking to buy in the next few weeks for medium term. Looks to have crossed a 3-touch trend line on the weekly chart. I was thinking of buying when it closes, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, strongly above $1.22. Thanks for your time, Pat."
Well,
Silver
Pat,
Lake.
I'm liking what he's talking about. Yeah, I think it looks really good. Let's first just sort of pan out a bit and have a look at the whole history of Silver Lake. We did a show on this a long time ago. We did silver, I think, some time ago, silver and lithium. But looking at the trend line down there, it seems like we've got a nice little angle down into that low. It's pulled back enough to satisfy the end of a decline. It's doing all the right things in terms of the shape and the unfolding, the way that it's moved. We just now need to see some more conviction from the buyers to really give us a confidence that it's more likely to keep going up. If we look under there, you can see that it's come down to some really nice support underneath it. In terms of resistance overhead, there's some short-term resistance in here, but I think that once it gets going, we could see it head further up to, what's that, about $1.50, $1.60 in the short term. But the first hurdle would be about $1.30, $1.33. So I like what he's talking about. I think it's a good opportunity to take a bit of a closer look at. But at this stage, the rules haven't been met. And I guess I'm a big fan of gaps on charts. I know you're not, but in terms of gaps, we're seeing it filling a gap on the chart, but there is a little tiny one down here, which I'd like to see it come back and fill. If it does, it would be nice to see it test that low and then take off from there. So it's always good to see people accumulating the stock. Sometimes you get the push out of the low and the selling takes over, the buying runs out, because it's those short-term speculators that try to pick bottoms that really, it doesn't last long enough and it comes back to these points here. But if it did that, that would be a really strong basing pattern, and then a move up out of that would be nice.
I think to me, I do like it, and I think, to me, when we're looking at this, all too often, yes, you can use the trend line as a buy signal, and we do that all the time. So where you drew the trend line through here, and we're looking at it at the moment. but it really hasn't proven that's really the low at the moment, have you?
That's what I'm saying.
So this is really what you're saying here, and so whilst you probably could take the signal here to buy into it, we are having a little bit of a down move, and sometimes you'll see that it drops its head on the trend line and go bottom on the trend line and then takes off again. So you're not out of it if you haven't bought yet, I'm saying. That's really what I'm saying.
Good point.
Anything else you want to add to it?
No, not at this stage.
Well, we do have a text, Janine, and this one is from Angelo. He's asking about CSL, I believe, and he says, may close twice above a downtrend line on the weekly. There is a gap in the bars. Is this a false ride before falling away? Support level is a previous all-time high from 2018. So if you want to be like Angelo, send us a text now, or better yet, pick up your phone and ring 92909988. We'd love to chat with you. If you're just sitting there going, hey, Dale and Janine, why don't you talk about this? Or you have a question, just pick up the phone and dial us now. We'd love to chat with you. Now, you've got the stock up, CSL?
I have. So I've got the weekly chart, which is the one that he wanted to look at. And you can see there, it's like we looked at the sector just a moment ago to show that we like that. Of course, it's going to be because of the dominance of CSL in that space. That trend line, that we're looking at there, is it close enough? It's probably not confirmed yet.
I don't think it's close enough.
It's not confirmed, is it?
No.
Well, it is a $200 stock, so but I'm not going to show people how we confirm it here right now. But it depends where you line up the line, doesn't it? Really, but. Right now, it's a dash line, and I'm just waiting to see what it does next. But it needs to come back into the angle.
That's what worries me more. Not so much the two closes above a trend line. It hasn't had that yet.
Yeah, because, how quick has it been off that low?
That's pretty
quick. It's been fast, hasn't it? So it's really gone quickly. So it's already gone about 11% from that point. And it's slowing down this week. If we get another big push up, I would say that there's a high probability that the trend is actually starting. But it just means that we need to see, like you say, that gap filled first and it come back sort of more to the angle of this move before it rises again. How many times do we see these things happen where stocks take off and they make a move up and it might go up to the next level of resistance and then all of a sudden it will come back sort of some way along the distance that it's risen?
Oh yeah, it
all the
happens
time,
quite regularly, especially when you're talking about this market, and this is why I'm saying to be a bit more careful. Is if you go and look, here's the last few years. This is since 2020. Okay, so then we're talking about December 2019. Look what it's been doing. So it's been really, really sideways, whereas it's because you've got to trade in context with the market conditions at the time. Obviously, if we go back to...
everybody's an expert in hindsight, aren't they?
Look at this. Beautiful between 2011. If we go back further, we go into 2006 to 2007 before the GFC. Beautiful. Completely different context in terms of how you trade it. So... And obviously through here using different rules. And this is what I was explaining on my market report yesterday when somebody asked me about benchmarking. I said, you can't just benchmark on one period. You've got to look at it. Your trading rules are different. Each different period are going to change depending on what the market's doing. And so how do you benchmark your trading? So that was a long answer yesterday.
That's a really good question.
To help people understand, well, how do you benchmark your trading performance? It's not just saying, well, I'm just going to go against the, whatever the All Ords do, I'm going to get X% better than that. But here, we've got to keep our buy rules in context with the market conditions at the time and the stock at the time.
Yeah, sure.
And that's sort of what I'm saying here is, right now, with the market the way it is, this could be a suckers rally. Could be. Could be.
But look, the industry are looking for what we've seen is the industry move money from one sector to another.
They do.
When it's down.
Yes.
So that's normal because in theory to them the risk is lower. The further it goes, for the bigger stocks, the lower their risk, and then they will just sort of start to trundle a certain amount of money back in. And that's probably what they were doing here after that first bar down in October, the 13th of October.
Quite possibly.
Friday the 13th, does that ring a bell? And then the following week, inside and inside again, shows that, okay, there was no commitment to push it down any further, and then this big reversal. It's not confirmation, but it's just an early sign to watch it.
It is an early sign. I like it, but I just think we just have to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now it's time that we get into our next question, which is from Jake. Hi guys, love your channel. Can you please look at charts for Kogan.com, Adore Beauty and Z1P if they are looking to increase or decrease in price over the coming months? Greatly appreciate Is it Jake? He also posted the same question as a comment in YouTube last week, so good on you, Jake. So we asked for more information and he responded with, I hold 2 and looking to buy Kogan for long term as e-commerce is growing fast in Australia and Kogan is taking market share and their inventory issue is getting better. I own Zip at 57.5 cents and ABY at $1.13.5. We are going to look at Kogan later on in the show, but right now we'll get into Z1P. So let's get into the chart.
Okay, so looking at this, I actually are getting interested in Z1P. I really am, but not right now. Now, obviously, he was at 57.5 cents, so he's obviously been caught in somewhere in here. He's bought in and he's completely down at the moment. So if we look at his, he was at one stage suffering a 56% loss. So I'm understanding why he's interested in
So
it.
is he a trader or investor?
Well, no,
That's
not
unclear.
if he's doing that. He's got to be an investor.
Yeah, but maybe he's thinking that he's a trader because this type of stock is a trader's stock.
It's definitely
not
a
an
trader
investor.
stock. It's not an investor stock. So, but he's right to be, obviously looking at this stock. But obviously, if he's bought in sometime in this last 12 months at 57 cents, maybe he thought it was a basing pattern here. Maybe he thought it was going up. And this is sort of what I was
Well, it
getting at
looks
before.
like it, doesn't it? I mean, I can understand where he's thinking because it looks like it, but you and I look at this decline and we straight away can see the
It's gonna
rules
go
that would
further.
keep you out of that decline. But someone who doesn't have the knowledge is not going to realise the risk that they're taking by buying in because because the good rules that they could use to keep them out, they don't understand
They don't have
it.
them. And correct, absolutely correct. Because if you look at this is the whole history of the stock. I mean, have a look at that. That's a massive, massive move from that high from February 2021 right down to here. Normally what you'll see with such a huge big fall, if we're looking at, where is it?
We've seen plenty of stocks that have made these sort of moves, haven't we? And yet they could just trundle along the bottom there for a long time. Some stocks have done that. It's not to say that just because it's had this great fall.
Well, it's nearly 100% fall.
Yeah, just because it's come back to that prior low doesn't mean it's going to take off from here, though.
And generally what you'll see on these sorts of things will happen is if you use a trend arrow, what will happen will be something like that. That's what will happen first, and then it might take off. So you're going to see like this big dead cat bounce, most likely when you see this huge type of moves, because the market, people who want to buy low price will jump into it, it'll move up, but then the people that hadn't sold through here, they'll go, it's going up, I'm getting out now, and then it'll dump it down again, and then it'll start to go again. So just be careful at the moment. I am liking this move at the moment. It's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks up. But, it's going to be a while before it gets back up to the 57.5 cents. I would like to see it come down a little bit, find some support above that low, and then I'll get really interested in it.
Yep, okay.
Not beforehand.
Excellent, thank you for that. All right, it's now time for our topic. Tonight we're going to answer a very compelling question. What are the best stocks to buy for a Santa rally? We'll also take a deep dive into lithium stocks and give you our thoughts on whether they will recover by year's end.
Now, there's a lot of people waiting to make money on lithium stocks as prices have been down around 75%. Now, to me, this means there's a huge opportunity sitting there, but before you jump into these stocks, it's not as easy as that, as there are mixed messages about lithium prices and how they will finish this year and performing into the coming years.
That is why I want to clear this up and share my thoughts on this. Now, Santa rallies and the opportunity ahead of the next bull run, ideally we want to see the whole market finish on a high as we head into the new year, not just lithium stocks.
I'd like to see that one, that's for sure, definitely. Now, to be honest, Santa rallies have been really lacklustre in recent years, or can I say this, it just emphasises why I think it's not super important in deciding when to invest at this time of year.
One thing I'm sure of, Dale, is that everyone watching has found the right video for answers. Before I get into lithium stocks though, and what they are likely to do towards the end of the year and into 2024, my quote for tonight comes from James Patterson, who's an American author, and he's co-authored #1 best-selling novels and some really interesting ones, and he said, "Assume nothing and question everything."
So you stole my mantra.
Is it?
I've said that. I've been saying that for decades.
I think you must have read one of his books.
Well, even in the start of the course, I go, just because it's in here, don't assume it's correct. Test it.
That's really good advice.
Test everything.
Test everything.
You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a book or whether it's a course like ours. It's like learn it and test it. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Excellent.
You know,
I mean, I
learn it,
like the
test it.
fact that you say that to students, because sometimes they look at you and they think, oh, Dale said, so therefore I've got to do. But it doesn't mean that at all. You just say to them, look, you know, if you don't believe it, just go and test it for yourself.
Yeah, check it out for yourself, because if you don't check it out for yourself, how do you know it works?
Exactly.
Don't just blindly believe people. But I love the quote anyway.
All right, now, look, you'll love this one. On CNBC, they said the Santa rally is a meaningful trend.
Sorry, seriously? And whoever said that's got no idea what a meaningful trend is. And if you listen to that type of short-term thinking, Janine, you'll end up focusing on the wrong things.
I couldn't agree more, and that's why one of the most important things that we teach our students is how to identify when a proper trend forms.
Well, it's more than that. It's also about knowing what important information to pay attention to.
Yeah, so true. And before we share our thoughts on some of the best lithium stocks, I have to say it's no wonder there's confusion about the forecast for lithium prices. First up, I want to share what Piedmont Lithium CCO had to say. There's not enough lithium hydroxide battery-grade lithium being produced to meet growing demand. He also said that supply is not expected to exceed demand until sometime after 2027.
Okay, now in support of this, the Standard & Poor's Global Community Insights also indicated that supply will fall relative to demand in the coming years, and Australia is actually set to be in the box seat to benefit. Then there's this, Janine.
Well, in 2022, an impressive 46% of world's lithium came from Australia, and by 2028, revenue from exporting the commodity is expected to reach more than 22 billion Australian dollars.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, also McKinsey & Co state that Tesla alone will need 16 times more lithium than last year, and battery electric vehicles growth base case scenario is 26% per annum growth, and lithium carbonate forecast is 20% growth, 31% for lithium hydroxide and 13% for lithium carbonate.
I have to agree, nice numbers. And, excuse me.
Oh, well, that is impressive.
That's good timing, wasn't it?
Now, even taking into account planned and probable projects, McKinsey say that supply of lithium carbonate alone will fall well short of demand.
By contrast, Goldman says the lithium market is expected to move into a high surplus phase over 2024-25 on new supply entering the market. Okay, Dale, the big question, who's right here?
Nobody.
It's a bit like that, isn't it?
Is it about being right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's just about, well, this is what we expect, but it doesn't always happen. Because I know
just
right
like
now,
a Santa rally.
Well, I know. Well, it is correct, but I know right now the actual wait time, the sales of cars, if you want an ICE car or a combustion engine car, they've got 9 weeks supply. But in terms of EV, they've got like 9 to 12 months supply because nobody's buying EVs.
Right.
Or very few people are buying EVs. So Ford's just recently announced that they're going to slow down production of EVs.
Interesting.
And there are other companies saying the same sort of things because they're stockpiling them.
Okay.
Because they're still, you know how like a habit takes a long time to form?
Okay,
And
so
a
you're
lot of
saying it'll
people-
take more than 12 months for that to run out?
No, I'm just saying people are slowly shifting to EVs, and eventually you're going to get that tipping point because people are now saying, well, you know,
Are you going to buy
an
one?
EV vehicle? No, no. To me, if you want to have a sports car, you want to hear it. You know what I mean? You don't want
You revhead.
You don't want to fly. I don't care whether an EV goes faster than my car. I can hear my car when I start it up.
Okay.
And to me, that's just my tactile thing, and that's what I've grown up with. But younger people, people are being born now, and people under their 20s, they'll all probably buy more EV vehicles.
Yeah, because they
Absolutely.
like all the gadgets and everything
So
that
it
goes
takes
with
time
it.
to get the old farts like me into EV vehicles.
Okay, fair enough. That's a clear message.
I don't need this massive screen on a Tesla.
Yep.
I couldn't handle that.
That's lovely.
You'd be watching it all day long and not driving in the right spots.
Thanks for sharing your wisdom, Dale, whatever that is. Now we suggest to do your own research into the supply and new production coming online in the next couple of years. What we will do now is look at the price chart of lithium and tell you what we make of it. Then we'll take a look at the best lithium stocks for some incredible opportunities. So let's go to the charts.
All right, so what do you got on the screen
All right,
now?
so we've seen that lithium price head all the way south. So what I'm liking is the fact that this shape at the bottom is actually indicating that there could be a low coming in, and we may actually have seen the bulk of the fall. I mean, we know that lithium prices have fallen 75%. I guess the main thing is that's really interesting to me is the shape of this move here. So it doesn't matter what Goldman Sachs says, it doesn't matter what the CEO of any of these companies say.
No,
what matters is the direction of this chart. So
this tells you what the market's doing.
that's right. So now some of the companies actually have forward contracts, or they have contracts in place. So it may not always be a direct correlation in terms of the price chart, because remember we've talked about this on the show before.
I think so, because I know Apple has contracts. They've got contracts for the batteries, for the lithium and everything for the batteries. So they're trying to protect.
Now, what I'm saying is the selling of the lithium, right, is they've got forward contracts for that. So, and in terms of the production, they can only keep up with it to a certain point. So they're just continually digging it out of the ground as fast as what they possibly can. And there's more supply coming online over the coming years. So it's about balancing out that supply. But every graph that I've seen is showing that the supply is likely to increase over time, that the demand is going to increase over the time,
of course it will.
Particularly into 2050, where a lot of countries are not meeting their requirements for the net zero by 2050. So when you look at this share price, this lithium price, it's flattening out. That's what it's telling me.
What I was about to say, the angle of that momentum is really flattening out this last 6 months of this year. So you could obviously, that's telling us something that when momentum is slowing down, that means we should be getting more of a balance of supply demand and then flipping the other way, shouldn't
So
we?
just like we show with the stocks and how we're waiting to see that bottoming out, we still want to see that with the lithium price. So we still want to see a bounce at the bottom. So will lithium be in the top picks for the end of the calendar year with the Santa rally? Well, I don't think so at this stage.
I don't think so. We don't have enough time. I think
but it's
weeks.
about being prepared for this, because this could be one of the biggest opportunities over the coming few years for investors to take advantage of if they're there. So it's about watching the lithium chart at the same time as you're watching the stock charts and just being ready with your rules for that.
Well, I think if we get planned and everybody gets planned, they'll be popping their corks into the new year sometime.
Yeah,
and probably in the first quarter, maybe not into the second quarter, but definitely not before Christmas, I don't think.
Excellent idea. So be prepared for that in the start of the year.
Yeah, so you'll be celebrating into Easter. Hopefully, anyway.
Well, that's it for our topic.
Okay, so we've got another chart now. You're moving on too fast, Janine. What are you doing?
I need to take the robot hat off,
You're like
don't I?
a racehorse.
I am. Sorry, I'll slow down now. So core lithium. Thanks, mate. Core lithium, CXO, market capitalisation 1.8 billion or thereabouts. Now, we've seen it have a deep dive over recent months, and it's hit somewhere around 30 cents. Now, you and I generally don't even look at stocks that are trading at that price. But should we treat lithium stocks differently? That's really the question.
I think we sort of have to, because it's one of those areas, like we've seen a few times over the last 3 decades, it's like Bitcoin, when, back 10, 15 years ago. Now Bitcoin's becoming more mainstream, there's more liquidity in it, so it's a little bit more regular. And I know trading Bitcoin, it's so regular how it moves.
Yeah.
So that's going to be happening in this sector. So what it did, if we look back here, what it was doing back here, that's when it was a lot more high risk. But now we're seeing a lot more take up of EV and a lot more people wanting lithium for whatever it is, batteries and toys, and we see all these
I guess the question
e-scooters.
I'm asking is, do you expect to see a repeat of that sort of action on the chart?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, you might see a nice rise up, but it'll be a much more sustainable rise. So rather than it being a very vertical rise, I'd say it'd be a little bit flatter, but a lot more sustainable. It's normally what happens when you see something going from being more speculative to be more mainstream.
But if I come back to your point about, okay, they've built up a lot of EVs in the supplies so they don't run out, right?
No, it's not because they're not running out.
Just because
it's because they started production and nobody's buying them.
Right.
So they built up a longer...
So if that happens, at some point, the elastic band has to tighten. So the supply kicks in, then the demand kicks in, people are buying the EVs, at some point that's going to change and the metrics of supply and demand will change.
Well, eventually, because the demand for the EVs has to go up, but you might see because there's more EV vehicles on the marketplace, that's probably surprised a couple of the manufacturers, possibly like Tesla, who sort of had the market to themselves for so long, but now every brand's got an EV and more are coming out. So people have got more choice now for their electric vehicles.
I guess I won't be convinced about this not turning back into a volatile stock again until I see that steady trend you're talking about, because in my mind, I think that it's always been a volatile stock. I think it'll stay that way. But to me, that's opportunity as well, and that's what you look for, some volatility.
I mean, you're talking about more of a miner here, aren't you, really?
Exactly.
That's what you're looking at. So miners tend to be more volatile than other types of stocks.
I agree with that.
But I don't actually expect to see such a huge rise from under 10 cents to $2 over a period of 12 months.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to see that again on this stock.
Okay then. Let's go to the next one, shall we?
Go for your life.
So Rio is obviously a different kettle of fish altogether, because lithium is not the major resource that hits their bottom line. But at the moment, this looks really, really nice, the way that it's unfolding. So it's got a huge hurdle to contend with some serious resistance across here and here, and obviously the all-time high. So it's a judgment call about the opportunity here, but Rio is getting closer to being an opportunity than it's been for a long time for us, because of this sort of weird volatility that unfolded. In terms of the lithium stock, though, it's nice to get a little bit of exposure to something that's not pure lithium, because we've obviously seen that in the case of the lithium stocks, they go from boom to bust.
They have been, yes.
If you can find something that's actually got some lithium as part of their, basket of commodities, I think that investors will be better off that way.
But you've just hit the nail on the head, is because you said for investors, Rio is a much better stock for investors. If you're an experienced, knowledgeable trader, then you can go to something that's more volatile and boom bust type of thing. Whereas an investor, you wouldn't, because it was you have to ride the roller coaster to death. And it depends on where you buy, and often investors will buy too late into that run. And then they won't sell, and they'll end up losing money or not getting anywhere.
Yep,
like we've seen with core lithium. So whereas Rio is a much better option to get exposure to that area because it's more broader because of the iron ore and other things that it does.
I thought we were going to have a really fun night disagreeing tonight, but we've started to
We disagreed earlier.
Agree again. All right, PLS, Pilbara Minerals are interesting. This one is yet to take out that low, and I'm waiting to see that happen.
Looks like it will.
Let's just expand that monthly chart up. It does, doesn't it? So this is going to be really important. If we can see it take out that low, I think sort of down into this, what's that, $3 mark?
$3.
Well, if it heads down there, hits around $3 and then starts to take off, I'll be watching this one like a hawk.
Around 290 is going to be its very, very strong support.
Yep.
So it wouldn't surprise me if it hits that $3 or goes just below $3 down to that 290-ish area.
I really like this stock. It just trends beautifully. I think it's good. It provides good trading opportunities, short-term, medium-term trading opportunities. So, I think this will be a nice one.
Let's whack a red line on that one. So that's where we think it's going to head.
Yep.
So therefore, that's why you're saying that we don't think they're going to turn around before Christmas.
Correct.
We've got 6 weeks roughly.
Well, it could do that in a few months, as you said.
It could do that, but more than likely it's probably going to wash out a little bit, come down into here over the next month, maybe 2-3 months, find some support and then start to move up again. But that's when you want to watch it. Why you really need to be looking at the market right now and looking at these stocks and doing some work on them. But you want to have a look at the weekly chart?
Yeah, let's just, before we do that, let's just grab that one, a line just to have a look at what's going on underneath it. I mean, there's potential short-term support there. It's possible that it may actually just try to go up a little bit to test that bottom, test that support there. But we'll be watching after that anyway closely if it does. Weekly chart, let's have a look. So it's just all selling. There's just no breather from that selling at all, which is really unusual, isn't it? To see that. You don't often see that on stocks. So
it's 14 weeks down.
Yeah, so that's why it's possible when you see that it could actually go down longer. I mean, how many times do you see that? It spends time going sideways and then you get another sell-off.
What I don't want to see is what people, they can see this coming off quite nicely, but what I don't want people to do is, if let's say it does this, and then they go, oh, it's going up now and jumping in, it's cheap.
Way too early.
And way too early, because what will likely happen is it'll do that, which will be a sucker's rally, because that's quite often catches people out. They see a little bit of a move up, and it could be a really strong move up for a week. You know, it might go up 10% or more in a week, but then you just don't know that that's the bottom.
Let's think of the scenario. So what happens if we get this really nice strong trend, not trend, we get this really nice strong bar moving up and it goes above $4 1 or 2 weeks up? What would that tell you?
That tells me there are buyers around, but I would still be sitting back waiting.
Is it a test? Is it a false?
Test. It would be a test of the voraciousness of the sellers, but it could be anything. It could be short sellers covering positions, thinking. It could be anything that's pushing it up.
True.
So that could be happening.
Okay, well, stay tuned to have a look at that one. Now, let's have a look at one that's talked about a lot. This is Liontown Resources.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gina Reinhardt got
look
involved
at the gap
here.
on that one. You love gaps.
Yeah, this is awesome, isn't it? But before we look at that, I just thought this looked amazing. Have a look at this line. So if you just draw the line up from here, you know, when people talk about the stock market being completely random, they haven't looked at a chart.
No, they haven't looked at the chart.
So, I mean, how does that happen if the stock market is completely random? So even though we had, all of this noise about takeovers and then interference with takeovers, we're now seeing, and look, I mean, I get excited about these takeovers because I'm hoping that something's going to change and we're not just going to continue to allow stocks to be taken off overseas like they are constantly. Ampol was a real win because they actually kept Caltex listed on our stock market. So I don't mind when they do that, as long as they don't just take it away eventually anyway. So looking here, we've got this huge gap. It looks like it's got the brakes on this week, but it's too early to tell just yet.
Too early to tell, isn't it?
So we just need to see where it's going to find support. But I'd definitely be keeping an eye on this one as well. This is, to me,
it's interesting how you had that, the big spurt back earlier this year where it took off like a rocket, then consolidated, and then it's just dropped back down to that consolidation pattern between sort of one where your red line is and $2.
Yep.
Just
so if we're talking about whether it's hot or not and whether this one's going to meet the Santa rally, because remember Santa rallies were the last 5 days of the calendar year plus 2 days into the new year. Now that's a really short time.
That?
Like it looks some boffin, years ago. It was done based on science, right? And the probability was high that just like what we do, we just do analysis to determine whether something's repeatable, whether it's has a probability. So the following calendar year was actually positive if the Santa rally occurred.
Yep.
Now to me, Santa's actually been and gone by that point. You know, so I just was thought that anyway. That's just me being silly. But after the new year, the theory is that the market has a positive year in the following year.
Yep.
But in the last sort of 6 years, it's just been all over the place.
Yeah.
So it really hasn't held up at all. And I just think be very
we have a good
wary.
December. Typically, our Decembers are very good in Australia.
That's before, see, if you think about that, that's before the AI really started stuffing around with our market. So, I'd like to see a normal rise. So normally human beings are optimistic.
Yeah.
And so that's why the fund managers would go away and typically our market would rise into the end of the year. We just have a nice move up. But anyway, we won't go there for now.
Okay.
Liontown Resources, so I like it, but just not now, obviously. We just need to be waiting for this bottom to come in and
I
turn
would
around.
be expecting it to find some support pretty soon and then settling from there.
But again, it's not an investor's stock, it's
Definitely
a trader's stock for sure.
At the moment, but yeah.
And it's short-term trading. I mean, imagine if you managed to get in there. Be a nice one, wouldn't it?
Well, it would have been, but you should have got out at the top.
All right, let's just spend a bit more time on minerals resources, because this is the stock that Goldman Sachs actually talked down. I'm not saying they talked it down, but they did forecast that it would fall, right? And it's fallen right to where they said it was going to fall. So that's pretty, do we give them an applause or what do we do?
One right.
So there's 59. So the low here was, they said it was around $59. So it got to about 56.20. We know with these sort of stocks that, don't worry, no one's coming to pick us up.
Speak for yourself.
So we can see that there's some support through here. Okay, so because of this sideways action that happened, it's come back into the range of that. It may just go down a little bit more and hover around in this zone.
Well, it is nice, quite nice, isn't it?
It is. Like once it eventually gets going again, I mean, we've already got a line in place, nice trend line in place. So it's just about being patient and waiting for that opportunity when it returns. But beautiful trending opportunities on the monthly charts. So it goes up for consecutive months at a time. So it's sort of, once you get into one of those trends, it's a no-brainer for a few months. It's not like you have to look at it every week. It's just look at it every month and just make a decision there if you're game. If we go back to the weekly chart, we can see sort of very much a window into what this stock does.
Steady mover, isn't it?
But just look at that trend. It's just a dream, isn't it? And then, you know, a trend line would have got you out nicely when it started to pull back. Here's a bit of a different story, but there are some rules that would have kept you safe
sort of
during that.
there.
Yeah, that's right. But even then, the rules would have, you know, helped there. So I just like this stock from the nice sort of trending nature of it. Even on the weekly chart, it looks good. But just looking at that decline too, I mean, there are plenty of rules that would have kept you safe in that decline.
In this one?
Yeah, whereas people were trying to sort of second guess it. Oh, it's come off its high, now we should get in. How far has it fallen, just out of interest?
Oh, I'm just going to draw a trend line across all of that. So
As a percentage?
how far has it fallen as a percentage?
Yeah.
It's fallen roughly 42 odd percent.
So if that came down to 50,
I'd be
you'd
super
be excited about
that.
that, wouldn't you? And then you get trend line in place and a break above that.
Yeah, I'd be
nice
super
to see.
excited. But whilst it's trading below this trend line, I'm not super excited about it. So you might find it moves up, hits its head, and goes further down again. But yeah, I like this stock. It's just beautiful trending, isn't it?
Yep, isn't it? It's interesting.
Really, really, really nice stock. So I do like it.
So
I'd like
Santa
to see a little
rallies.
bit more volume coming through on it. But
Do we think there's a Santa rally this year? We've
I
just
think
had
we've got-
another interest rate rise.
I think Santa's gone to the Bahamas.
Do you?
And he'll probably be resting his laurels there.
But I don't think that has any bearing on whether we'll get a positive year. And I'm actually picking that we will get a positive year
I
for
think we're going to get a
2024.
positive year because our market has been held back all year.
Yes,
And our economy's not that bad.
that's right.
It's really not that bad.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I think interest rates now have peaked. I know I've said a few times in the last few months I thought one or two more rises. I didn't think it'd happen this month. It did. But I think now we've had that. We're unlikely to have one more. But as they're saying now, they're already talking about and factoring in interest rates falls from sort of second half of next year.
Yep.
So
Just keep an eye on the oil price as well.
I think everything's looking good for next year.
Well, that is our topic tonight, and we've still got lots more stocks to get through. But before we get into these, for those watching on YouTube, you can watch all of tonight's show, plus the 30 minutes of bonus content that includes a more in-depth approach to lots more stocks and questions. You can do this by simply taking a couple of minutes to secure your free 7-day subscription to talkingwealth.com. You can also get to watch Dar's weekly Australian stock market report, where he shares his view on the market and where opportunities may arise. You also get access to hundreds of interviews with industry experts from around the globe. What are you waiting for? Sign up for your free 7-day trial now.
Now, as you are subscribing to Talking Wealth, you'll actually get some more questions. So now's the time to pick up your phone and give us a call on 039290. That's 03 for Melbourne, 92909988. Or you can text the number on your screen. Now, whilst we wait for your call, let's get into our next email. Now it's time we get into our next question, which is from Gerard. And Gerard says, hi, Janine and Dale. Thank you again for your Tuesday night show, which I never miss. Thanks, Gerard. I would like to have your thoughts on Image Resources. Is it the right time to buy some units of that stock? Please let me know. Kind regards, Gerard. So, Image Services, I'd say no straight away.
It's pretty obvious from the chart
I'm
based
sure
on
you're
what
gonna
we've
be
been
kinder
talking
than
about
me.
tonight. So yeah, Gerard, I mean, I can see where you're coming from in looking for something in this sort of area.
It's 6 cents.
It makes sense. No, it makes sense to look in this area, but however, the chart's telling the story, so it's keeping you out. Just the fact that it's in that downtrend, and I think it's important just to observe it. Don't try to second guess that bottom. But if it does come down, I just want to put this crosshair on here. Across that bottom, it's right near that low. Now, it might actually start to turn around from here, this is the only chance it's got, in my view, if it doesn't, because, you know, we're talking about a stock falling from, it's currently around 6 cents.
Yeah.
And heading down to
4 cents, so that's a 30%
4
drop.
cents. So look, you know, for a stock like that, stocks can be manipulated on the market, and stocks that are trading at these sort of levels even more so, and that's where you have to be really careful about risking your money in something that's highly speculative. So you want to have a really good rule and lots of justification, lots of ticking the box. The challenge for anyone looking to buy a stock like this, though, is that when they go to buy it, and I found this even with some stocks myself, is that the stock will take off significantly off the bottom, and then it's about, well, do you still buy it? So, for example, if we go back and we have a look at what happened last time, and this is where Gerard really has to sort of pay attention to what's happened, it did 117%. This is in 1 month, right? So this is where the attraction comes in.
Correct.
Right, and this is where the risk comes in. It's sort of like the lure, if you like, because people hear about these sort of things on these type of stocks. So in 2 weeks it did this. There was no sign off that bottom to get in. It's very hard drawing trend lines on stocks that are highly illiquid. So if you see these sort of bars looking really odd on the chart, it just looks, you know, we teach our students how to recognise stocks, whether they're liquid or illiquid, and that isn't a liquid stock where you've got all of these sort of bars together like that. Just because you can buy doesn't mean
you can sell, and that's what we had. I had an email the other week, I think last week, from my market report for the Monday one, and the lady said, I understand why you say liquidity is important, because you get stuck in some of these stocks. Because often what happens, if I go back to this is the weekly chart, yeah? So this is the weekly chart, and these little dashed lines means there was almost nothing happening that day. You can see there's a range of 0. It opened at 7 cents, closed at 7 cents, and there was $1 million of volume. It means there was probably one trade. That's it. And if you weren't on that one, you missed out for the day. So to me, that's a stock that is struggling. But what actually happens is, quite often, if I use the monthly chart, is people might buy in here, but they're still hanging on over here. Because they don't know where to get out, and they're thinking it's going to do another 1,000% or whatever else. But I don't like it, Gerard. Sorry.
Yeah, look, I'd have to agree with you on this case. Look, I mean, if it turns around and starts if it makes these sort of moves, so where it does, I'm just going to show him something just quickly, but where we get this sort of thing happening, where you get this nice sort of consolidation happening, a lot of times we see stocks that have lower liquidity, they break out of these and they run for at least a few weeks, you know, it could be a couple of months. And often you can get a really nice return, but you've got to not be greedy. So you've got to have complete control over your psyche and understand that you're just in it for the short term and you're not going to get greedy. You're just going to take a nice return and let other people carry the risk after that. So if you can do that, then you might do well with these lower sort of liquidity shares. But otherwise, buyer beware. Okay, Dale, it looks like we've got a caller on the line. This is Guy. Welcome to the show this evening, Guy. How are you?
G'day. Well, thanks.
That's good to hear.
Thanks for a great show.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're excited to have somebody call in. We like to talk to people. We get lonely, or he gets lonely anyway, don't you?
That's because I don't talk to you.
He doesn't talk to me much. All right, thanks, Guy. And you've got a stock for us tonight. What is it, please?
Yeah, it's a curious one. It's Sayona Mining, SYA, I think it's the code. And the reason I'm curious about this one is that whenever I look at the daily most actives, this one comes up. It's a lithium stock too, so I thought it's on topic. To my mind, looking at it, doesn't look overly spectacular, but my question is, why is this particular micro stock, why does it seem to be so active?
Is it number of shares or dollars?
Number of shares or dollars that are active?
I think it must be dollars or just trading. I think that's what it must be. It's on the ComSec most actives every single day. Almost.
Okay.
Yeah, because often it triggers you. It tricks you, because if it's number of shares and you're talking about a stock that's 8 cents, you know, as opposed to, let's say, an $80 stock, you're going to see a lot more shares traded on that, possibly to trick people. Yeah,
but sometimes these smaller shares, if someone's accumulating the stock, you can often see a lot of trades and the volume going up, so that can be a sign of that. So look, you've got the chart up, Dale, so geez, you're good. SYA. Bye, Guy. Thanks very much for calling into the show. We look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Oh, you wouldn't? I thought you were going to ask him another question. Okay. Look, I mean, it's interesting when you're looking at stocks, like, because I often see people say, oh, you know, but it's trading at 10 million shares a week. And I go, well, trade time 10 million shares at 7 cents, work out the price of that.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like less than $1 million probably. And
so there's not much liquidity at all.
yeah, so people do see things like that and get excited about, oh, there's a lot of liquidity. But yes, but you know, at the end of the day, it's been trundling down. And so these are the sorts of stocks that some people like to play with. And so you'll see those sorts of things happening. But looking at this weekly chart, it looks it's at the right. It looks bearish to me.
Well, the fact that it's actually slowing down, so the decline is slowing.
This is slowing down. This is look.
Yeah, so that it could be that that people are starting to pick it up now. There's some speculation coming into it. I'm actually not as bearish on it at the moment. I don't know that it's finished falling, like you say,
I don't think it has.
But I just think that we just need a couple of weeks up on it to give us an indication about whether it's likely to go up. So that I'd be just waiting to see that first, but I would have a very tight stop loss under that because, like Dale said, it could easily just flip and continue down.
Well, here's your daily chart, and look at this. It's just like your picket fences through here, so it's very much is a more illiquid stock.
But it looks like the liquidity's changed. Like you said, that the volume's increased, and you can see it on the bars. Look at the difference in the bars from, say, back in August 2023. Straight away.
Your volume.
Straight away, it looks different now over the last sort of what month or two.
Well, there's August, I say, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot more volume coming in.
Which is a good sign.
Yeah.
To keep an eye on it. So I think great guy that you've actually looked at something, you've found something that's interesting, that's different about the stock, that's changed, because that could be lead in to say that this thing could take off at some point. But it's about being patient and still having your rules and just not sort of saying, well,
Totally
okay,
agree.
I'm going to just take a punt. Don't do that.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Because it is. I mean, if he has got some good rules on this, I don't have a problem if he knows what he's doing and he's got some rules around it and trading it. Don't have a problem with that because volume has increased. So, yeah.
Awesome. Now, before we get into our next question, remember to hit that like button and show your support for our channel by clicking subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Good. And if you like to give us a call, please pick up the phone 92909988, or you can text us to the number on your screen as well. But remember, if you do want to chat to us, call in now on 9392909988. We'd love to chat with you. You can also, if you're a bit shy, as I said, email us at info@wealthwithin.com.au so we can answer your question in next week's show. So we're giving you 3 options: phone, text, or email for us for next week. But this one we have is from Boris, who writes, "Hi Dale and Janine. Thanks again for your show and your educational material." That's okay, Boris. He said, "My question is about Kogan. I have been watching it since it stopped falling in July 2022. I have been hesitant to get in and have been waiting for confirmation. Having now 2 high highs in August 2022 and July 2023, and in the short term, last week's candle is breaking the downtrend that started in August 2023. I think it's the right time to get in now. My stop would be an uptrend line. My target would be $8.50 under the last big resistance, 75% potential for a 15% risk. Does that plan have enough rules and confirmation of entry, or do you need to see the price going above $6.50 for confirmation or something else? My main fear is my strategy still following a suckers rally. Thanks for your thoughts. Cheers, Boris." Well thought out.
Very well thought
Very
out.
well
It's
thought
got a
out.
plan. I like it, Boris. So
He's got a plan. So is it enough? Is it enough? That's what he's asking.
well, that's the question. I mean, sometimes you can just sort of stack so many things up for the trade
We have to get the
and still
confirmation.
ask that question. You have to get the confirmation, but in terms of stacking everything up, but it's about doing that big picture analysis first,
Correct.
and that's what a lot of people miss. So that's why Dale and I look at the monthly chart, which I've got up on the screen. So this is the first place to go. So if he hasn't even looked at the monthly chart and he's gone straight to his weekly
Well,
chart,
that's one of the big
that's a
things
mistake.
that happens with us, isn't it? Because you and me do most of our work on the monthly chart.
That's right.
But a lot of people do a lot of their work on the daily chart. And
Exactly.
I went, that doesn't make sense to me at all.
But the fact that he was talking about trend lines, I think he's on the right track. You know, he's
Correct.
looking for what am I going to do to manage it once I'm in it, and I thought that was
But
really
if this
good.
was going up to that $8.50, I think is what he said, you know, he's like, that's his target to sell at. 75% upside, 15% possible downside, which is his stop loss. But I wouldn't be targeting that at resistance level at all, because it may go through that. Because I know you and me said a few times, we've said we never, ever, ever take a buy or sell signal on a resistance or support line.
Yep.
It's technical rules for getting in and out, not a support or resistance
Yeah,
level.
so there's got to be something that confirms.
I would absolutely
Yep.
be using a trend line as my exit signal, and if it's above that trend line, that uptrend line, mate, I'd be staying with it because it could go much higher than $8.50.
So let's just go back and have a look. So if we look at this first of all,
Yeah.
like it's almost like that he's looking in the right places for a start. Because if we look across here, he
Boris
said
has done well.
850, right? Which is where's 850?
A little lower.
Just down underneath that. If I could grab the damn thing, here we go.
Keep going. Keep
All
going.
right, there
keep
it
going.
is.
There it
Okay,
is.
so we've got a level there, and I think he's got an important level there. Looking at those points there.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Just the question of whether it's ready to take off yet. And there's nothing so far that's saying that it is on the monthly chart, just looking at it. It's got the potential, but no confirmation is what he's saying anyway. So I think he's got something there. He's questioned to, confirmation, which I liked.
Yeah.
Now we've just got to go to that weekly chart. So I might actually change this one into the weekly, seeing I've already drawn that. Then we can see that it's been moving down in a downtrend, right? So it's been trending down, which is great. So to see that sort of pullback and a test of all of that, that's excellent to identify that. But now we just need some strength in this move up. And look, I mean, I don't think it's out of the question what he's saying for the target that he's talking about. But, I think that it doesn't show me that trend line is necessarily the way to go based on looking at the stock and the way it's unfolded. I'd need to see more, of the history of that.
Need to backtest a lot to see whether the trend line actually is the best.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So you're saying, he's looking at, I'm guessing from what his text was there's a trend line down here, and he's looking to buy this stock somewhere around here. I'm not sure that's necessarily the best rule right now.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit more conservative, that's all I'm saying. But
Okay.
I think Boris's fantastic email, love your email, thought you were on the right track, that's pretty cool. But sorry Boris, that's all we've got on Kogan. We would like to talk about more, but we can't. But we hope you enjoyed our show on YouTube. Now remember to show your support for us by commenting below this video after the show, because we'd love to hear your favourite part of the show. Also remember to give us a big thumbs up, as it helps new people discover these videos, and I know you want to support us, and we would appreciate if you subscribe to our channel so that you know when we go live. Now for those watching via Talking Wealth, stay tuned for your bonus content that we promised. In next week's show, we get into 5 hot stocks under $10 that we think are set to rise more than 20%. We'll also answer your questions and so much more, so make sure you put next Tuesday night show onto your calendar. Also give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you for joining us. For now, goodbye, good luck and good trading.